So today I'm going to talk about building a Windows Server 2012 template for use with Citrix Lifecycle Management. I did a previous video where I walked through deploying a POC in about 90 minutes, and I got some questions about the actual template build. So I wanted to go ahead and just kind of run through this because there's really not too much you have to do, but there are some important steps that could cause some issues with the blueprints succeeding or failing. So what we're going to do, we're going to basically talk about the ADK, using the Windows System Image Manager, sysprepping, and then I basically have a little test blueprint that I use to make sure that my template's running appropriately, or you can just do a quick test within your hypervisor, whatever you'd like to do. So first thing that I do is I downloaded the ADK. You can just do a search for Windows 10 ADK download. It'll bring you to this site. You can download the file here, and essentially what you're looking for with that install is if you scroll down after you install it to Windows Kits, you're going to see this Windows System Image Manager tool. That's what you're going to use to create your XML file to basically do the unattended install, which is what you're going to need to do with the template. Okay, so here it is. Here's the Windows System Image Manager. Once you launch it, it'll be pretty much empty, and you're going to go ahead and need the install.wim of a server operating system install media. Okay, and so where you can find that is if you look, I've got it mapped. I've got the 2012 mapped here to my drive. If you go into sources and you go down to the install WIM, copy that large file out to a location on your local workstation. Okay, you don't want to do it directly from the DVD. It sometimes errors and gives you problems. So copy the install.wim to a location on your workstation. Once you do that, file, select Windows Image, install WIM, open, and then from here select the image that you'd like to use. So I'm going to use Data Center. Click OK. Okay, so now you're using Server 2012 R2 Data Center to build your answer file. Okay, and the next step here is you're going to right click and do new answer file. So now you've got all the steps you need to do to actually start plugging this thing together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up my example file because it's got the stuff that I'd like to talk about. So the first step is to locate this Windows International Core Neutral thing, whatever these are called, components. Right click on it and do add setting to pass 7 OOBE system. What that's going to do is it's going to put it right in here, and the reason we're doing that is because we need to actually select our language. So click on, you should only see that right now that you've added just the first step, and then in the input locale, system locale, UI language, and user locale, type in en-us, and that's going to basically answer the language question during the install. Okay. The next step is to locate the shell setup. Okay, so what we're looking for here is shell setup. Again, right click on that and do add to pass 7 OOBE system. What you're going to do here is you are going to hide your EULA page. So if you drill down to OOBE, and you're going to see a whole bunch of other things. You want the OOBE, and it'll have hide EULA page, and you click on true because we don't want to be stuck at a EULA screen. The next thing you're going to want to do is set your administrator password. So under user accounts, select the administrator password and type in an admin password for use once the mini setup finishes. And then, I'm going back into a file after having created it, so you'll see that it's actually obscured the password for me. Okay, so those two steps for under the shell setup is EULA and admin password. Now the last piece of this is to actually add the shell setup to 4 to specialize as well. So right click this and click on add to pass 4. And then what's going to happen is When you come up to here, you're going to need to enter in your product key. Okay, so when you do the shell setup neutral under specialize, this product key is going to be your MAK. Whether you've got your own from MSDN or wherever you have your license file, you're going to enter it there. Now, if you're doing KMS, pretty much not needed, because once these boot up and they're part of the environment, group policy will take care of the rest of assigning KMS. But from a product key perspective, make sure that's there. Once you're done with that, you're going to do save answer file as, and name it unattend.xml. Save it somewhere where you can get to it from your VM. Because the next step is to build a clean 2012 base install, patch it, do everything you need to do. Don't join it to any domain right now. Just make sure it's clean and patched. And there's a couple things we need to do. So the first thing we need to do is go back out and locate that unattend file we just created. And you are going to copy that into Windows System 32 sysprep. And there should, you won't have a file in there, so just drop that in there, okay? So that's all you need to do from that perspective. Now what we need to do is we need to run sysprep. So navigate out to the sysprep folder, which is in, again, Windows System 32 sysprep. Now what you're going to run is sysprep /oobe/generalize/shutdown. Okay, now before you hit enter, the last step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and type firewall. Let's go into our firewall, go into inbound rules, and scroll down to WMI. These three rules need to be enabled. Okay, CLM uses the WMI to make everything happen. So these need to be enabled in your template. So make sure that's enabled. Come back in here, and let's click sysprep. What that's going to do is generalize the build so that on boot it's going to run a little mini setup. It'll realize it's got an unattend file in there. It'll skip through the EULA. It'll skip through any questions it has. It has your product ID. And it will come, it has the admin password. That's the state that CLM needs it to be in to function. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to a template. You'll notice that I've got template, CLM, and CLM. We just created version 2. So keep that in mind. It's going to be important here in a second. So now at this point what you could do is you could right click quick create and see if it boots right up into a login screen. That's one way. Another way to really test the full functionality is to come up into CLM, and I've got this test template. I'll find out if there's a way I can make this public, but essentially all this is going to do is spawn a single VM and rename it. At that point, you're able to manipulate, create resources from CLM down to your local resource location. I'm going to click deploy. It's not creating a domain controller. That's just where I basically cloned a mini POC and took all the stuff out of it. That's why you see that there. Essentially what we're going to do is just a single VM. The resource location is my T440S, which is what we're looking at here. That's a laptop running Zen server. It's got some information here. It's talking about what you need to do to make sure your template works correctly, which is what we're talking about now. It's going to create one VM. Here's my resource location. Now here's the This is the meat of it, because what's happening here is CLM is reaching down to my CLM agent, which is this guy. It's communicating back up with the information from my resource location. Now you'll notice you don't see version 2.0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the templates, and we should be able to see our third version 2.0 template. And there it is. Okay, so we're communicating back and forth, which is a really good thing. So I'm going to leave all this default. I'm not changing any storage. It's got DHCP. And now here is where we're going to use administrator. And the password we set in the unattend file, because that's the password that's going to be set after the mini install runs. So we look good to go. Again, I'm going to set a pass. Now here's where you could actually change that password if you wanted to. Okay, so we've got the password. The way to work is the template will spawn. The pre-environment will run through the mini setup, and it'll change the password. CLM has that password, but then you could go again change it to something else if you wanted to. Save this profile. That's just so you wouldn't have to go through all this again. And we'll deploy. And what I'll do is try to show this to you so you can see everything happening at the same time. So essentially what should be happening right now is we should spawn a VM, and there it is. Okay, it's creating the VM. You should see it power up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to wait for it to boot. And all this blueprint is doing is making sure that, you know, a blueprint has the ability to spawn VMs, manipulate them, reboot them, rename them, install things on them, because that's essentially what all the other blueprints in the catalogs do. I mean, you're spawning VMs, you're installing software, you're configuring things, but essentially this is as basic as you can get. And if this succeeds, then the idea is that your template is good to go for future blueprints moving forward. So what you just saw there was we reached out and downloaded the CLM agent, because essentially what we're doing is putting the agent on there so that we can manage it post blueprint. And that's really where some of the power of what we're doing with lifecycle management is going to be realized. Is, the post deployment, you got a single pane of glass with all of your stuff running. It's pretty powerful. So you'll notice right here, we're basically at the rename computer step. So that's a pretty good sign that we're able to send commands, we're able to receive commands. It's renamed the computer, it's rebooting. So we're going to let this finish, and then we'll basically do a teardown. So you kind of conceptualize an end-to-end, quote-unquote, life cycle of this of this VM, but all at the same time, the concept is this is running in the background. You know, you kick this off, you go do some other work, come back, it's done. As you can tell, it's been rebooted, and now we're setting the password, and now we're just going to reboot one more time, and then this blueprint will end. And at that point, what we'll do, and you'll notice right there, machine now has the new name, right? So the rename process has succeeded. So from here on out, you can rest assured your template's good. It's communicating. The firewall is functioning correctly with just those 3 rules enabled. If for whatever reason you wanted to make changes to the template, all you would need to do is right-click here, do a quick create, let it log in, do any of your changes, and then rerun the sysprep command. And then reconvert that to a template. So there's kind of this like cycle of create, change, convert, if that makes sense. Now, obviously in the other hypervisors like Hyper-V and VMware, I mean, the way you manage creating templates and whatnot is a little bit different. But in the Zen server world, very simple, very easy, doesn't take that long. All right, so we're done. So we've actually created, successfully deployed a VM using our freshly built template. So that's essentially what we were trying to do. And just real quick to show, you know, if we wanted to tear this down, keep everything clean, we could tear it down. And there you go. So that's building a template for CLM. Once you're there, you can go ahead and you know, take a look at this blueprint catalog. All of these that would leverage a Windows template would be successful with that template. Thank you.